r/rules horror. Posted by u/4c_enjoyer. The evening stroll. There's always been a certain allure to the neighborhood streets come nightfall. It was a path with no destination, a strange place where your only company was the moonlight and the twinkle of long-dead stars. I often gazed out my bedroom window in the late hours, feeling the pull of the empty road lit by street lamps with no one to guide. I wanted to step out into it, a whole world only I lived in. Part of me wished that when day broke, when light poured in from the windows of businesses and homes alike, when the once peaceful streets were cluttered with the sounds of cars and people talking, that the silence of the empty roads would take me with it. I'm sure you can relate. I never took that step out. The lights of houses and the cars driving back home after work lingered far too long. I didn't want to indulge and walk out into the streets only for the sun to rise and the noise to return so soon after I left. Until one evening, I had my chance. And I've never looked back since. It was late November. The leaves had all reddened and fallen and been raked away. Most mornings as you stepped outside, the brisk air showed your breath to you and made your cheeks flush pink. Clouds covered the gray sky and bright sun yet spared you from rain. November was always the most peaceful month for me. People favored the indoors as the weather grew colder, but not so cold that the snow brought them back out. I had just sat down and made myself dinner. Yesterday's rice with chicken, eggs, and vegetables made for a great fried rice, and I was about to boot up a game and unwind when opportunity struck. The lights went out. This was my perfect storm. The roads were quieter than usual. Most people had already picked up their children from school and clocked out of work in anticipation for the weekend. The streets were vast and empty, not a soul wandering the asphalt path. No lights from the windows to distract me. No humming motors and bright headlights to force me off the road. I donned my boots and stepped out into the night, the only working power in the neighborhood being the street lamps, their flickering hazy glow guiding me and me alone. And come dawn, the empty road silence took me with it. I see you've come to visit. I do hope you'll join us. Given you've found this note, your quiet night stroll has just taken a turn into our neighborhood. If you wish to turn back, to return to the hustle and bustle of the sunlit world, just turn around. Place this note back on the ground and walk back to your home. Once you reach the door, you'll look back and find the sun rising. It won't matter what time you began your walk, you'll always arrive at your home at sunrise. But you don't want to ruin the evening walk, do you? This is your last chance to turn back. If you walk anywhere other than directly back to your home, you will have accepted the terms and conditions. Come morn, the silence of the streets will take you with it, and our neighborhood will find itself with a new resident. The glow of dead stars will cover the night sky, the only clouds floating above being ones the imagination will morph and turn into vibrant scenes upon the starry theater. The streets are endless, yet your steps will never be cursed with fatigue, your mind never cursed with boredom, and your body never cursed with entropy or rot. And once you are a resident, your stroll will never be interrupted by the company of another unless you wish it, expressly or subconsciously. Despite what you may think, we've never had a visitor who didn't accept the terms. The neighborhood only selects those with an affinity for this place. I hope you'll not break our streak. The terms and conditions mentioned above and listed below contain guidelines and rules for becoming a resident. Each other resident has boundaries and morals, and we in the neighborhood want only for everyone to be comfortable. You'll have to follow the rules set in place by the other residents until enough time has passed. Note that while the residents will no longer be actively monitoring you after you've become a permanent resident, the roads you walk do not follow the rules of nature. Despite their Euclidean appearance, they curve in on themselves and intersect each other in a network of pathways. While we will not actively monitor you, each of us can sense if one of our boundaries is being broken while we're near you. Even if you only see a long stretch of road with not a soul walking it, we may be walking right next to each other on intersecting paths. Just be mindful. Rule 1, don't litter. The easiest rule to follow by far, every single one of the residents loathes littering, myself included. Just make sure you don't leave anything behind that falls out of your pocket. Once you reach a bus stop, you can deposit whatever litter you have into the garbage bin, and then you won't have to think about this rule moving forwards. Rule 2, don't harm the trees. One of our residents, Kron, ended up in the neighborhood through a walk in the forest. He has an affinity and love for the ecosystem of our neighborhood, and even the dead of the system serve their purposes. This rule is harder to follow than you'd first think. The trees include each branch and leaf. If you've entered the neighborhood around mid-autumn, you may find yourself having to take the long way around sections of the sidewalk. The middle of the road is mostly safe, but you may find the occasional branch blown onto the street by the wind. Kron isn't so strict as to have you removed from the neighborhood for accidentally stepping on a twig, but he'll definitely take notice if you make a habit of not watching your step. At the very least, if you step on part of the tree accidentally, make sure you don't step on any more for a bit. Rule 3, if you suddenly feel ill or in pain, don't react. 2 of our residents, Kit and Tag, are married and the only 2 residents who travel together. Kit suffers from constant ailments, and his affliction extends those ailments to anyone near him. Tag, on the other hand, is a healer. They walk beside Kit and relieve him of his pain, but will have to make physical contact with you to do the same for you. Kit hates his affliction and blames himself for any pain others feel, and Tag is extremely protective of Kit. If you make your pain obvious, Tag will remove you from the neighborhood for making Kit feel bad. Tag will know to heal your pain if you stand still for about 10 seconds. You'll feel a hand on your shoulder for a few seconds and you'll be free to continue your walk. Even once you become a permanent resident, you shouldn't make Kit feel bad. Both Kit and Tag are the second largest residents in the neighborhood behind only one, which you'll read about soon. Most of us would struggle to beat Kit in a fight, let alone both Kit and Tag. Rule 4, if you suddenly find yourself walking alongside a man with 3 necklaces, turn around and walk the other direction. The man with 3 necklaces is Nagi, the most mysterious of our residents and certainly the most antisocial. I'm told that when he was welcomed into the neighborhood, he made one thing absolutely clear: he despises company. That said, the streets know if you want to walk with someone else, whether you even know it or not. And the streets have never neglected to provide him with company. Once you're a resident, this rule will only apply if you yourself want company on your walk, but if you do, always turn around once you get paired up with Nagi. He'll know that you don't mean to bother him and leave you alone. But if you try to interact with him in any way, he will remove you from the neighborhood if you're not a resident, or just get into a fight with you once you are. He's one of the more capable fighters in the neighborhood. Rule 5, if you see the dragon cloud, pay your respects. The dragon cloud is the oldest resident in the neighborhood, and according to him, actually created it. We don't know his true name, if he even has one, but if you see him, he does expect some form of respect. You can bow, do a little dance, pray, or even just give him a thumbs up. Even Nagi pays his respects to the dragon cloud. And don't worry about not seeing him in the sky, he won't expect anything if you don't notice him, but believe me when I say that he is very difficult to miss. Rule 6, if the street lamps glow a different color than usual, walk under them. That's Ezriana's doing. They're our newest resident, and rather fond of traveling through the power lines. If the lamps are glowing a weird color, usually yellow or purple, that means they're taking a moment to admire the view. They'd appreciate it if you went under the light and enjoyed the view with them for a bit. You can get back up after about a minute or when the lights go back to normal. Don't stay much longer than a few minutes though. Ezriana will grow attached to you. Rule 7, if you see someone with wings standing on the rooftops, stand still. That's me. I didn't have those wings before I got here, but the neighborhood does as it wishes. We don't have to eat, but some of us like to go hunting from time to time anyway. If you see me, just stand still and I'll know you're not prey. If you like, you can also spread your arms out. I'll see that as a request to take you on a short flight. I don't do it often for the permanent residents, but I'll never refuse a newcomer. Rule 8, stay away from the forest. Once again, this is Kron's forte. It's best to stay away from the forest both to avoid breaking Rule 2, but also because the neighborhood grants gifts to the wildlife just as it does to us. Once you're a permanent resident, the neighborhood will take it upon itself to grant you your ideal form. Depending on what that form is, you might be able to enter the forest anyways. Just remember that while you can't die, you can feel pain. Rule 9, if your shadow disappears or detaches from your body, just keep walking. That's Lily. She doesn't actually have a physical form of her own, so she just hijacks shadows. If your shadow disappears, you should just keep walking. When Lily switches shadows, yours will automatically return to you. If your shadow detaches and walks next to you, still keep walking. But be careful not to step or stand on it. It hurts Lily quite a lot and she will have you removed from the neighborhood for it. Unfortunately, she's also rather impulsive. If you walk alongside her, stay about a meter away from her so you have time to get out of the way if she gets distracted by something. Rule 10, if you see a large pothole in the road, hide as quickly as possible. Our neighborhood doesn't have potholes. If you see any potholes, you've stepped into the space between paths. Into the perfect intersection. Hide. Don't let anything find you. Everyone in our neighborhood will know when someone stepped through, and will come to help. Once you're a permanent resident, you'll be expected to help as well. This is where those removed from the neighborhood are placed. Once we're there, you'll be transported safely back to our neighborhood. But if they find you, you can't come back. But as per the terms and conditions, you cannot go back to the daylit world either. You'll be stuck there, You will have none of the neighborhood's gifts. You will succumb to entropy and rot, you will fatigue and your footsteps will become heavy, yet you will never die. We all have our hiding places so that the other residents know where to find us. Kron hides in the bushes. Kit heals the trees and grows a dome of roots over them and tag. Nagi climbs to the treetops. Ezra hides in the power lines. I fly into the clouds. Lily hijacks an ant's shadow. And that should be all of the current rules. It's worth noting that while you'll only have company if you wish it, that only extends to walking alongside someone. You can still encounter me on the rooftops, see Kron in the forest, or walk past Ezra in the power lines. I'm sure you'll find your own niche here in the neighborhood, and once the neighborhood has given you their gift, you can set your own boundaries. I hope none of us have to remove you. I wonder what your gift will be. Your new neighbor, Flynn.